The cases are being brought to court, but alleged criminals are getting off scot-free. Criminal justice experts say violent criminals are being found not guilty at an alarming rate in the city of St. Louis.
News 4 investigator Lauren Traeger has been poring over court documents for months. She has the startling numbers in a story you'll see only on News 4.
St. Louis has long had a crime problem.
I want justice for my grandbaby.
But in recent months,
I thought I was going to get answers right away.
News 4 has heard from victims or their family members concerned that the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office isn't doing its job.
I felt like, with the smacking of the hands she's doing now is hurting the people.
Many crime victims wait a very long time to ever see justice served. But what happens to the cases that make it all the way here to a trial in the city of St. Louis? We wanted to know, are city prosecutors winning or losing here in the courtroom?
That's where you shine.
Former prosecutor turned defense attorney Christy Flint says conviction rate at trial can be an excellent report card for a prosecutor's effectiveness.
When I was a prosecutor, it was, our stated goal to have, an 80 to 85% conviction rate.
News 4 gathered historical data that showed the Circuit Attorney's Office used to achieve guilty verdicts in approximately 72% of trials on average. But in recent years, that number has fallen sharply. Numbers we obtained from Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner's office showed that in 2018, prosecutors got guilty verdicts in just 51% of cases. In 2019, the conviction rate was 54%.
If you're seeing your prosecutors who are, losing half the time, you got to ask yourself, what's going wrong here?
In the most recent weeks, the rates have not improved. In fact, an analysis from court records shows that in the first 2 weeks of February, the Circuit Attorney's Office got a guilty verdict on only 1 out of 4 trials, a trial conviction rate of 25%. Recent cases with not guilty verdicts include a murder and an assault. Gardner, who recently claimed in a federal lawsuit that there was a racist conspiracy to oust her from office, has often said she's faced challenges from the police and those wishing to harm her reform efforts. So we wanted to know how Gardner's office stacks up to her counterparts. We did some research. St. Louis County, where Wesley Bell took office just last year, had about a 65% trial conviction rate for 2019. In St. Charles County, it was 72% for 2019. In Jackson County, covering Kansas City, it was 84.5% guilty at trial. In Marion County, covering Indianapolis, it was 70%. From our research, the only number that came close to Gardner's conviction rate was from the counties in the Orlando, Florida area. Their prosecutor has also claimed challenges as an African-American woman in office, and she recently stood with others in St. Louis to show support for Kim Gardner. Her trial conviction rates for 2019, 60% in Orange County, Florida, and 57% in Osceola County.
Prosecutors are loath to bring cases they don't think they can, quote unquote, win in court.
Criminologist Rick Rosenfeld with UMSL says there could be 2 reasons why Gardner's numbers are so much lower than others. Either they're taking tougher cases to trial, he says, or her prosecutors are overworked and overwhelmed.
If lots of people are not convicted in cases in which the evidence could have been presented in a better way, or the evidence is much stronger, that's not good for the city, it's not good for our circuit attorneys.
I don't know how you can say that it would be anything else other than inexperience.
Flint says office turnover must be to blame. Our recent review of the roster showed a significant decrease in the number of attorneys trying criminal cases in the last 3 years. Only 2 trial attorneys currently in the office have been there more than 5 years.
Ultimately, what this comes down to is that the victims of the crime are being represented in the courtroom by people without experience.
Flint says without a wealth of knowledge and experience to lean on in the office, winning cases is much harder.
If I had a 50% conviction rate when I worked in that office, I would have a great amount of scrutiny from my supervisors. They would be looking at, what's going wrong? Are you not preparing your cases? Do you not have time to prepare your cases?
But now that she's a defense attorney, she says the word's getting out. Defendants are far more likely to roll the dice and go to trial, knowing right now there's a good chance they'll get out.
I get to take advantage of that.
We wanted to interview Circuit Attorney Gardner for this story. Instead, we received a written statement from a spokesperson which defends the office and its prosecutors, specifically saying they work tirelessly to serve the people. The statement says over 90% of cases are resolved outside the courtroom, and counting plea agreements, the spokesperson says the overall conviction rate is 95%. Still, the statement says the circuit attorney ran on a platform to reduce the number of cases unnecessarily charged in order to focus on the more difficult cases for trial. Certainly, we'll continue to keep tracking the trials and the numbers. I'm Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates.